It's the diary of a tired black man. Hey, it's the diary of a tired black man.
Peace, family. Your boy Fonzi Dean, representing for bat.online.com. Back with it once again this week. We do appreciate everybody tapping in. And if you're new, joining us, salute and welcome. Also, John once again co-hosting with Dean. What's good with you, man?
Yeah, what's up, man? Just looking to give my opinions again, unfiltered.
Well, unfiltered, unchained. We definitely do that here. One thing it's synonymous with. Speaking of unfiltered and unchained, there's something that has broke the internet as of this weekend. We think of slavery, and people think of chains and stuff, and then you think of sort of breaking out proverbially out of chains and bondage. It was quite apt over the weekend that there was an incident, a melee that took place. Now, I do want to say that we don't condone or advocate violence or anything myself. People know me, I'm a pacifist by nature and philosophy. However, I do believe in self-defense and people having the right to defend themselves and stick up for others, especially when they're being unfairly mobbed. But we'll get into it. We've seen a video that went viral, so many different angles of it. So many different variations, I guess, and people see just like a huge melee, which sparked from some people on a boat. And apparently they was trying to park their boat, and you had this white guy and his family and stuff. They had their boat out, and they was, enjoying the fecundities of life. And they didn't feel as though they needed to move the boat when the security guy was asking them. So he did his job, and I believe that he may have moved their boat or something. It was seen on camera, So they came and they confronted him. There was a bit of a confrontation. You couldn't hear it, but you could see people filming from on the boat. Subsequently from that, somebody just charged at him, and then, you seen what was quite horrific, which looked like, could lead to like a lynching or a mobbing, especially in that area where we know it's been reported that that port was once where they actually transacted some of their slave deals and had cotton going out and things of that nature. So they've actually apparently got a slave trail and stuff there, so it's got a lot of historic context and stuff as well also. So when these guys, they just mobbed this black guy, it was quite a horrific thing to see, and obviously people were quite startled. He actually works there. If they could do that to somebody working there, they could probably do that to anybody. So thankfully, there was people that literally dove to the rescue. One young brother, after giving the utmost respect and salute, he dove in the water and he swam all the way over to the other side of the embankment. He jumped out, and he didn't jump out and go straight. You could see he was upset, assessing the situation to see what was happening. Then a big fracas kind of, erupts. We see the police come. We see a guy, he's been dubbed the chairman online. He come and hitting people with the chair like in WWE. I mean, what a crazy, wild brawl. I believe I've given it quite an intro, but what do you think of that? Speaking of unchained, I should say.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously I've seen the videos and I was just shocked at what I saw. Firstly, it's like there's a lack of respect for authority, which I think is becoming more prevalent now everywhere. The security guard was simply doing his job, right? He's well within his rights to ask them to move the boat. He's just simply doing his job, what he's paid to do, what he's there to do. If he hadn't have asked him to move the boat, you could argue he wouldn't be doing his job properly, right? And I think that the guys who attacked him, well, obviously overreacted. There was no need. There was, undue force. He wasn't causing a threat to them. He was simply asking them to move the boat and doing his job. And, I just feel that in society now, there's just a lack of respect for authority. People don't care. People are not scared of, for example, they're not scared of the police. People do anything. And it's like almost like an attitude of, what are you going to do about it? They're not scared of the kids in school, not scared of the teachers. Again, what are you going to do? Kids at home are not scared of their parents. And I think that's where a lot of it stems from the home. We need to go back to the days where, authority means something and people have that natural fear of authority, and you listen to what people who have authority over you say. So I think that's the first thing that's caused this, really. I think it's that lack of, understanding of someone's in an authoritative position, and you have to kind of listen to what they say. That was my initial thought.
I think it's interesting you say that, because I think when we look at authority, and it has been reported now, there was a lot of stuff going on the video, so we couldn't hear every detailed point, but it was reported that these guys did use the N-word and things of that nature and slurs when they were talking to the security guard. So I want to sort of look at the context of authority, because do we believe that these rich white people that said that they allegedly, were owners of some kind of store or convenience store or something, just maybe multiple businesses or something, who knows? I mean, they're out there on a boat and stuff, chilling, not to say black people went on the other boat, but anyway, I digress. Do you think they had a level of respect for that guy, especially if they're using the N-word in an authoritative position based on the color of his skin? Because some people, especially in that area, they might feel, who is this guy that we have to give him any respect, or he's got no authority over me? Yeah, he may have a job where he's invoking his position. However, it seems like they was just completely just not interested in hearing what he had to say. They believed they was in the right. Some people call it like, male Karens, but for them to then, go on and attack him, it was like they didn't recognize any kind of authority. And one of the things that struck a chord with me, a lot of the people that dove into the rescue and helped, restore balance and some kind of semblance of order, they all had on blue shirts which said crew. So they all worked there. So I thought that was a nice touch also.
Mm. Well, yeah, I did like the unity of it. How his colleagues essentially came to his aid to try and help him. I did like that unity. But you alluded to it at the start of the video, Montgomery. That was an area where it was prevalent in the slave trade in the 1800s, and going back to the 20th century, that area was quite, because I remember studying this. That area was quite prominent when it comes to the Jim Crow laws, segregation, the civil rights movement in the 1950s, and that kind of thing. Those kind of areas in the South. And even though we're now in 2023, some of that ill feeling from the past, from both sides, is still there. Will it ever go? I don't know. But it's a fact that in some of the areas of the southern states where racism was more, where slavery took place, where the segregation was more, where they had the Jim Crow laws, etc., those areas are generally in America more racist than some of the northern areas of the states, northern states. So is there a racial element? Well, if he's alleged to have used the N-word, then obviously there's a racial element there. It could be argued that some people, we're talking about lack of authority, some people find it difficult to accept guidance or instructions from someone who's of a African or Asian persuasion. Perhaps they think, well, you can't tell me what to do, almost as if they think they're better than them. We know that exists. There's no secret. That's no secret that some people find it difficult to accept leadership from someone from those demographics. So it could be argued that there was a racial element to it. In time, the truth will come out, as it always does. At this stage, it's still early stages. We don't know the full facts yet, but what I can say is that the force they used on the security guard was unacceptable. Completely acceptable. It was over the top. It was an overreaction. He didn't deserve what happened to him, and I believe they will get their comeuppance. It's all over the internet now. A lady filmed it, and then she's then passed it on to everyone, and it's gone viral.
And we've seen loads of different angles, just to add on, because as you said,
exactly.
We've seen the main footage, but we've seen other people filming, and everybody's gone on to celebrate, the young, I believe they said he was 16 years old, the young kid who jumped on the boat and swum over, to ensure the safety, as he said, of his colleague. And he's been tremendously honored for that, and I definitely, salute and tip my cap to him and stuff. And even Stephanie Mills, the iconic Queen singer, songwriter, Empress, has said that she'd be willing to put on a benefit concert to help raise any funds, if anything, are needed for legal issues. Dr. Malik Shabazz has offered his legal services and stuff. Quite a few people have stepped up, which has been quite a good thing. So as you said, it has seen a sense of unity, especially in the area where you mentioned and you spoke of, just like Jim Crow and the civil rights era stuff. We only recently saw Carolyn Bryant Donham, who was the false accuser of Emmett Till, which led to him being lynched and killed. And, at those days, people couldn't do anything about that stuff. They was able to get away with it. And she died recently. I believe it may have been early this year or last year. And as of recent, people had been trying to press for her to be rearrested under a warrant that was never served to her. So I bring that up to say you made a great point when you said even though it's 2023 now, some of these things are still kind of prevalent in those kind of areas, especially within certain regions of the South. So I think a lot of people felt a sense of elation to see people actually come to the defense of somebody that could potentially have faced, very life-threatening harm, because we've seen that over history, throughout the course of history, especially within those regions and stuff as well. So as you said, when they heinously attacked him, I think people felt a sense of like elation and reverence to an extent to see, his colleagues and his people, just come out and represent and, not be held back by fear or anything like that. Because I believe Dr. Richie Rashad from Indisputable said that within that state, it's a statute that you do have the right to defend yourself if you're being attacked, and you do have the right to engage in combat if it's in defense of somebody else being attacked. So it could be argued, but it should be argued that they was completely in their rights within what they did. And it's although it was a shame that violence had to ensue, sometimes you come up right away when you're a bully, and it looked like how they was bullying that guy was completely out of order. But as you said, I do believe there was a sense of racism to it. And, a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's not race related, you're playing the race card and stuff. But I do feel as though, as you said, just from my experience of some people and just of the world in different aspects, a lot of American, especially white males, they feel as though, blacks are like 14% or something of the demographic. They feel, not to say they're invalid, but, they don't, as you said, they don't like to take maybe then correction from somebody that they feel is a smaller percentage than them, or their opinion doesn't necessarily matter. So I thought that was sort of displayed by their attitude, by not moving the boat and just, being pompous and blocking things up, and then, engaging in trying to proceed to beat the guy down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the thing, you see. Races have to learn to live alongside each other, because whatever race you are, whatever race you are, no one's going anywhere, right? So let's use the Montgomery example, right? You got the white community and the black community there. They've been living alongside each other. It might be segregated, but neither race is just going to suddenly leave, and they're there together. So you have to learn to live together. And as time goes on, you have to kind of, these things, this ill feeling from the past, which I think is still there in the southern states, we have to get rid of that ill feeling. And that's from both sides. This feeling of anger, this feeling of animosity.
I was going to say, do you feel the segregation is a good thing, or do you think there was a need for separation? Because some people say they just want to be separate and be left alone to develop their own.
No, I don't think we should go back to segregation and separation, because I think that's going backwards. I think we're going the wrong way there. We're going back to how things were in the 50s, and that wasn't how things weren't good then. I think we have to learn as communities just to live together.
Well, I think separation could work when it's done right, because especially when we look at like the Americas, and we say they had Black Wall Street, and we're here with the Tulsa Race Massacre and stuff, and different. It wasn't just one Black Wall Street. They say they had various places like that around, and what happened was they just destroyed them. And that was in the cases of when people just wanted to be, left alone to their communities and be allowed to develop. Sort of like we look at like the Chinese communities, and they have like a Chinatown most places, and for the most part, they engage and interact within their own community with commerce and just social stuff, and it's like they're not necessarily attacked within it, even though we do see in America there's been a new bill passed to stop Asian hate and things of that nature, but I don't particularly feel they're as ostracized or as attacked when they do separate. Like black people as a group, when black groups generally separate, I usually feel it's demonized, and I don't think it should be as much as it is, because other groups kind of partake in the same philosophies and stuff.
Well, I mean, I think I don't necessarily think we, different race groups separate, but I think by default, different ethnicities separate naturally anyway.
Yeah.
You go to any busy shopping center or entertainment area or whatever. Most people are hanging out with their own ethnic group anyway. So I think most people separate, divide each other along racial lines anyway. Naturally, people naturally feel more comfortable amongst their own kind. I think that's perfectly normal. That's across all the species, not just human beings. So And separation is kind of, it's not, if there's no official segregation in the South, but it kind of, it's still there just by default anyway. I mean, I personally, I've been to America twice, and I feel that in the UK, for example, the races are more integrated. Now we spoke previously about Birmingham and that kind of the racial divisions and that kind of thing. We've seen documentaries on that, but I think we're actually more integrated in the UK than you are in America. As I said earlier in the conversation, that I still feel that the past is still hanging over people's heads in America. Even people who were, say, born in like the 2000s, and therefore didn't experience the civil rights movement and the extreme racism and that kind of thing, they still hold certain things in their mind. Maybe it's passed down from old generations.
Definitely passed down. I've got a couple of points. One of the points being on that, I definitely say, as a byproduct of things that, as you said, happened in the past, we've seen the residual effects. So what's happened subsequently is people that have been affected or disaffected by some of these things, the generations after them are suffering in a different kind of manner. So even though they're not experiencing the same level of oppression in one kind of aspect as being out on the field or all that extra kind of ish, they're feeling it in a different aspect because the other guys put themselves ahead in a systematic kind of game at the same time. So within all of that, I'd say a lot of the younger generations then have felt the brunt, and that's made them respond and react in the way that they do, and give them that sort of mindset and outlook that some of them can have. And they're not always right sometimes, but I do believe that's the place where it's coming from. Another thing I was going to ask, because as you said, when we look at America, you say maybe people get together and stuff. We've seen, even with this thing that's happened, we've seen all the great memes, we've seen a lot of, I guess, jubilation from the people, and I've also been advocating for people to be careful because, especially like racists and white supremacists, sometimes like if they take an L or what they perceive as an L, and you celebrate and they want to get their look back, they want to make an example. Sometimes it's done in ways through the media, sometimes it's done through just people going out on the streets and maybe taking things into their own hands, because we've seen videos and stuff in the past where people ranting and putting out content and saying they're tired of seeing videos online of white people getting beat up by black people and stuff. And ironically, most of the time when we do see videos like that, it's because they used the N-word or they did something or they was aggressive or they was egregious towards the person, but that's never really spoken about. However, I'm saying off the back of this, while this is being so widely celebrated, I mean, all the black celebrities are posting it, everybody's, it's gone viral across all platforms. It's something that I've even had, like, some white people kind of comment on it, and some that I know, they see your social media every other day, so they're not going to miss it. Some who haven't commented on nothing, or, but, they've seen it. So I've had a few even comment say, I've seen this video floating around and what's it all about and stuff. And then, when they see the full video in its context, they can't really say much because you see that the guy's been around. So it's kind of, evident. However, do you feel there could be some repercussions and backlash within, especially America? We know there's a lot of Proud Boys, Trump supporters, left thinkers, right thinkers, all that sort of stuff. Do you think, there could be some form of backlash on that aspect? So when you say you think everybody got to come together, can you see that happening there, or do you think it's going to lead to what some people attribute to be, maybe, I don't quite say a civil war, but something to that effect within the US?
I don't necessarily think it's going to get that extreme, but I do think that obviously everyone has smartphones nowadays, so everything can be recorded. So things that happened in the past could be denied and lied about. People can no longer deny and lie things because everyone's getting out their phones when they see an incident now. So this is bringing to light what people have been saying is happening for years. People have been saying these kind of things happen all the time, and without any kind of evidence, it's just he said, she said, one person's word against another. Now we're actually seeing cold hard evidence of what we've been saying for a long time. So as a result of that, I think people are starting to see the truth of the dynamics between different ethnicities and things that unfortunately still happen today. I don't think it's going to blow up into the extreme global situation like you saw with George Floyd 3 years ago. But I do think this will escalate into bigger than what it already is. I do think this story that we've seen this week, it will grow. Will it lead to tensions in certain communities? Inevitably, yes, it will do. People are going to be angry about it. People are not going to be happy. People are going to be saying, look, this is 2023 and this is still happening. And in addition to that, I do think that this is a situation where the people who did it are going to have serious regrets, because now their face is out there, and what they did is going to scar them for life, right? Once something like this happens and you go viral, that's it. 10 years down the line, people still think about this, know this, attribute them to this. So their actions have caused themselves problems. They're only heaping problems on their own shoulders, you know? So in my opinion, do I think we're going to have a civil war or anything like that? No, I don't think it's going to get that extreme. But I think this will cause certain divisions within communities, because I think that some people will see this as, look, racism hasn't changed from what it was 50 years ago. And then some other people will say, oh, race card, playing the victim again. So that's just going to cause problems there, you know. So unfortunately, another bad incident, another racial incident, potentially a racial incident. We think it's not ideal. It's not something we want to see. But unfortunately, that's the reality of the world.
No, it's definitely a sad but true and harsh reality of the modern society. You know, once again, we don't condone or advocate violence, you know, especially senseless violence, which is why it's very so hard to even watch the initial part of that video with the security guard being so callously attacked. You know, myself, I was, you know, just so unnerved watching it. I thought, you know, they might drown him. You know, they can run over like 6 of them, and you know, I would never stop saying the young brother who dove from the boat and swum and put that work in. The utmost respect, you know.
Exactly. Looking out for his colleague, that you know, that kind of unity that we like to see.
Of course,
helping out his colleague there.
And I mean, helping his colleague and you know, that kind of camaraderie, because you know, we've seen so many different aspects of it, and the sad part is, you know, we don't want it to be as such like a, you know, I know sometimes we can be like, we don't want it to seem like a black versus white thing, and you know, some people in the media haven't reported on it that way, but we do understand that there was, whether an overtone or an undertone of racism involved, and obviously white supremacy, if they did use the N-word and stuff, and it would be egregious in that manner. So we do know that this is, you know, kind of a sad state of reality in a sense, because we can't pretend that these things don't exist. So, as I say, just to see that visual of people standing up for their colleagues, but we also had it look like some members of the public that they also seen what was happening, and they seen the guy getting jumped and they intervened also. So it, you know, so you had those guys who were kind of intervening in defense, how it looked of, you know, just somebody who looks like them. And, you know, to me, that's very important, especially for what it means in that area, for where we said they, you know, imagine how many people, unruly slaves, they might have whooped there, or you know, drowned or killed and stuff and dismembered. Like, when we think of some of the stuff that these people did, it was quite harrowing, especially with regions and stuff. So I don't want to say I feel a sense of vindication or anything like that from it, because that would be lowbrow. However, I do feel a sense of reverence to see that people still have that level of care for their fellow man. And, you know, that sort of respect level, I got to give big salutes to. And the women and stuff there too, because there was also women getting involved.
Absolutely.
Somebody made that point to me, and they said, you know, it's great to see black men and black women on the same page. And I said, well, yeah, you know, it's a great example of that we need them to be fighting with us against oppression and injustice, as opposed to fighting us, you know what I mean? So, you know, sometimes we talk about relationships and that dynamic, so we don't want the black woman to be fighting against us, to be fighting with us against oppression and injustice and things of that nature.
Absolutely. I mean, I saw a video yesterday of the lady who actually filmed it, because she thought it was just so difficult. She's like, oh, she actually said she wanted to film it because she was just discussing what she wanted to see, and she wanted everyone to see what's happening to. She's going to take it to the police. She's going to make sure it goes on social media, make sure it goes viral, send it to everyone. So you know, the lady who filmed it, she was so incensed by what she saw, that the injustice, that she just got her phone out straight away and make sure she filmed the whole thing and make sure as many people saw it as possible. So I think at heart, most of the general public on both sides of the pond, you know, just basically want to see human beings treat each other with decency, really. I think on the whole, I think the majority of people, obviously there's always going to be section of society who are just trying to cause havoc. But I think, over half the people, you know, generally just want to see people treat each other with respect, you know, get along in society. And that's why she filmed it, so it goes viral, and hopefully that kind of thing doesn't happen again. But inevitably, it will happen again.
You know, it's a shame. We definitely want to say respect to her. We know sometimes people have their differences in opinion. Some people say, oh, well, everybody's on their phones, they should have been getting involved and stuff. And as you said, we can look at it from the flip side, where if this was cases and times of like Emmett Till and other people, if people had access to, you know, different forms of technology like that, then that could be used to corroborate, you know, it could helped in cases and things like that, as opposed to, as you said, it's your word against somebody else's, and that's their people, and they're most likely to disagree with them. So, as you said, definitely it was good of her doing that. I think that was very well played, and I believe one of the ones I saw, it could have been live, because I've seen a whole bunch of emotions and stuff going up as she was streaming it, and I was like, well, this is the world that we're in now. So it's kind of a paradox, because whereas we can then celebrate the technology and just being able to bring stuff like that to light, it's also stuff that we don't really want to see happening. And as you said, there is a good portion of people that do want to see better, do want better, you know, that comes in all groups. And oftentimes, as you said or alluded to, it's the bad apples that sometimes give a few bad apples ruin the batch, or, you know, give that kind of level of embarrassment to their people. And you know, a lot of people do it. You know, I've seen even from white people speaking on this incident, and they've condemned the guys who started the trouble and stuff like that. And, you know, so everybody isn't in a stitch about it in that kind of aspect. Hopefully people are just looking at it from the aspect of right and wrong, a learning curve for people. You know, I think that's a huge one, and that's important. You know, I definitely want to say rest in peace to all those who have been, you know, killed and unfortunately had their lives taken as a result of like racism and stuff. So gladfully this wasn't one of those cases. I do want to say, you know, rest in peace to all those as well who were fought.
But I just want to add a point to that as well. You know, so you mentioned smartphones there, and how smartphones and people recording stuff, everything on camera is bringing to light things that we've been mentioning for decades. I think it's a good thing now. And the reason why I say that is because people are now going to be reluctant to do horrendous things to other people, because they know there's a potential that there's someone somewhere filming them. You might not be able to see them. They might be hidden. They might be in a building filming you from the window or whatever. But they know that if you do something bad to someone in public, or not even in public, even in you know, somewhere indoors or whatever, there's always a potential. There's a camera there somewhere. Somewhere there's a camera. It's either CCTV or someone filming you. So they're going to be reluctant. They're going to be reluctant to do it. So I think that's a good thing. People, say 50 or 60 years ago, they knew they could get away with doing something because there's no evidence. It's their word against someone else's. But now it's a situation where it's like we've got social media, and it's just like, be careful what you do, because, you know, before you know it, you might be going viral for the wrong reasons. And you don't want to go viral for the wrong reasons, because that can not only mess up your career, but mess up your whole life. So we've got to be very careful what we do with our actions. So I actually think that smartphones, cameras everywhere, bringing these things to light, I think it's a good thing, because I reckon there's a lot of things that would have happened that haven't happened because people know, okay, there's a camera here, I best not do anything. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree to an extent. I'm not going to go too deep on it, because I know this will definitely open a wider tangent, and we are running out of time. However, I do agree in one aspect that it can pose a successful deterrent. And, you know, going forward, I guess I see to what sort of society they may want to form, where people may not be able to do stuff because they know everything's being heavily surveilled, or you've got ways like that catching people. Because myself, I don't advocate criminality or partake in criminality and stuff myself, so I don't have nothing to worry about in that sense. However, I do feel there's a huge issue that we can then look at when it comes to just privacy and other things of that nature, where it's like there's fine lines between these things, which is why I say I don't want to go too much into a tangent, but the way that some of these things are used irresponsibly by some agencies and stuff for like spying purposes and different things of that nature, where it's like there's a fine line within how it could then start to impinge upon people's privacy if they're constantly being surveilled, watched in a sense. But I do agree in another aspect. So it's quite a quandary. I don't want to go, necessarily too much into it in that kind of aspect. But also, before we wind down, I guess on a button with that, I do feel as though, as you said, just like with the smartphones and stuff like that, that's also a great thing. I do want to say to people, though, in some cases, if it's safe to use your phone, use it. If it's, in some cases, we've seen that it can be unsafe because it can enrage the people even more when they're filming them, like when they're filming the Karens and stuff. And we've seen people, want to then, knock your phone out of your hand or something. So sometimes, exercise caution, I'd say. And I'd say to the family out there, definitely be sober and vigilant and diligent-minded, because they say your adversary, the devil, roam the earth like a roaring lion, seeking whoever he can devour. And at these times now, what I feel we're at the precipice. I don't want to say something big, but I feel as though a lot of the stuff we see happening now with racial tensions and conflicts, not just in America, but primarily there with just some of the stuff we've seen now in the aforementioned video. I do feel as though whether light or major, there will be some kind of repercussions, whether that's just people locally having their back up and feeling away and letting their animosity get them a certain way. So I just want to, for people to stay safe, stay vigilant and stuff. And, thoughts and prayers to everybody who's been affected by any of these issues. Do let us know any thoughts in the comments. We'd definitely love to hear from people as always. And once again, definitely commendations to those who stepped up for the right reasons at the Riverboat Brawl, as it's being now dubbed.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a whole new topic there. But you're talking about racial divisions and that we're seeing in certain European countries now. I know the Netherlands, Italy have got a right-wing government now. Netherlands, right-wing government. Netherlands has always been a tolerant country. Germany and a couple of East European countries, we're seeing a rise in the right-wing parties now. Now that's a whole new discussion that can't be had in 2 minutes.
Of course.
But we are seeing that certain ethnic groups are not happy about the way world and society in general is going, and that's been reflected in their voting habits. So we'll see what happens in the next few decades. But
it's definitely interesting times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, so once again, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Stay up, stay woke, stay steadfast out there. It's your boy Fonzi Neutron representing for AboutThatOnline.com. Definitely shout out to Mixer Reviews, holding it down on the website for reviews, news, and more. Things of that nature. Do log on and check us out. Also, if you're interested in the music and hip-hop side of things, you can check us out About That Music Group and About That Online, also available on YouTube. So we definitely had a good powwow discussing this one. We've been unchained, uncut, and unfiltered, as we're just counting down a little bit of the time now. We're going to be back next week with some more discussion. We've got a few other little drops that are coming soon, so we appreciate everybody tapping in. Your boy Fonzie signing out. Dean?
Yeah, man, we'll see you next week. We'll have a new topic next week, probably Wednesday, and we'll see you then for more unfiltered content.
Stay up, stay safe. We're going to be back unchained in the mix. DOA TBM. Peace. Shit.
YouTube.
It's the diary of a tired black man.